go live. Okay. So we are live with safehome.org, and Gene Petrino, let us know in the chat if you can see us and hear us. We'll get started here in just a minute. Looks like we have some viewers coming in. Hey, James, Chad. Great. Okay. They are trickling in. This is great. We'll get started here in just a minute. Hi, Taylor. Looks like Senior Living is in the house. Andrew, hello. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we'll let people keep coming in here, spilling in. We'll go ahead and get started though. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rob Gabriel. I'm the editorial director and home security expert at safehome.org. And today I'm here with Gene Petrino, who's a former SWAT commander and now owner of Survival Response LLC. Hey, Gene, how you doing?
Doing great. How you doing?
Doing well. Awesome to have you here. Thanks for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely.
So the agenda for today, we kind of want to go over a few things. So we're going to be talking all about home security and personal safety and how you can keep yourself and your loved ones safe in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in. We're going to watch some videos of home break-ins and porch pirates and get Gene's live reactions. So really looking forward to that segment. Then we're going to do a live Q&A. So if you have any burning questions, be sure to drop those in the chat in a bit. And today, hopefully this is going to be super insightful for you guys. It's not every day that we get to sit down with a SWAT commander and pick his brain. So really looking forward to this. And Gene, I mean, I was going through your website, reading about you, and a few of the things that kind of jumped out. You were an officer. You were a police academy instructor, I saw, obviously on the SWAT team, rising in the ranks to commander. And then I saw something on there that you worked in the Lone Wolf Terrorist Investigation Unit. So there's a lot of really cool things to cover. If you want to just kind of tell us about yourself and kind of what brought you here today, love to hear it.
Yeah. So, well, what brought me here today was you, but when I started law enforcement, didn't really know the direction I was going to go. Always had aspirations of kind of getting involved in everything. And over the years, it just, usually SWAT is something you start when you're younger. I waited till about halfway through my career before I got on the team. And it was, definitely one of the more fun aspects of my job. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do. Definitely a young man's game. So it was always a struggle. A lot of times just making sure that I was able to maintain the level that I had expected. I had to make sure I was also capable of doing. So it was a big challenge physically and mentally, but definitely one of the most rewarding things that I've done in my career. And, retired after 26 years. And one of the things that we had been responsible for was teaching active shooter response. And so we created a company based off of that concept, but we had grown from there, and we realized that there's a bigger need, which is more of violence prevention, I should say, and protection of people, and teaching you how to protect yourself, not necessarily from a physical standpoint, but how to identify a threat before it becomes an attack, so that you can save yourself and save others before anyone gets hurt.
Got it. Great. Thank you for that. And then I read also somewhere on your site that what kind of sparked your interest in law enforcement in the first place was there was like a serial killer going around your town or something like that, right? And then, like it was in the news everywhere. And then someone, maybe like a detective, came into your class to talk. And then it kind of like, this became like a thing that you knew you were going to do. Want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in school up in Gainesville, Florida, back in '89, there was a serial killer, Danny Rawlings, who had appeared there and started killing some of the students. And it really was pretty scary for me and everybody else there, especially after like the third victim was a male. It was originally just females, but then he killed a man, and it was frightening. So a lot of the students would, we grouped together at night. You'd see 15, 20 people sleeping in the same apartments. Everyone was carrying some kind of a weapon, usually bats and sticks and anything you could find. We were scared. But
Wow.
what stuck out to me, what I remember most, was that down the center of the main roadway in the median were hundreds and hundreds of police cars every night. And they were from different, they're all different agencies. And it was fascinating to me to see them all work together to try to keep everybody safe. And that kind of stuck with me. A couple years later, he was obviously captured and everything. And a couple years later, I switched schools, and I was in Tampa, Florida, University of South Florida. And I was taking an introduction to criminal justice class because I didn't know I kind of had an idea where I might be going with the career, but I wasn't sure. And one of the lectures that we had was one of the lead detectives from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement that investigated that exact case. So I spoke to her after that. And that really was sort of like, the seed was planted in Gainesville, and it kind of was watered with her in the conversation, and that grew into my career. It was something that I really wanted to do. And it became very passionate about, trying to provide that same level of safety, that feeling that I felt when I was a student. I wanted to give that back. So that's where it sort of flourished from.
Very nice. Wow. A wild story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do want to talk about some tactical things today, of course.
Sure.
But first things first, like what are some things that our viewers need to be thinking about to secure their homes or apartments from criminals? And I guess like what's like the low hanging fruit that they should take care of first?
Okay. Well, most people don't realize that everyone thinks that burglaries happen during, at nighttime. And the fact is, the majority of them happen during the day when you're at work or when you're at school. So that's when a criminal is going to strike. And my saying is that, criminals are cowards. They don't want to get caught. They're going to do it when no one's watching, when they can hide behind something. So daytime is the big one. If you have a security system, which you should be using it. And a lot of people don't.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's a pain. And while I understand that, it will help reduce some of the time that they're inside your house if they actually get into it. But simple things like, not obstructing the view of doorways with trees and hedges and things like that. If, they don't want to be able to have just unfettered access to be able to take their time breaking into a window or the front door, because it's not able to be seen by neighbors or by someone driving down the road. So you want to keep that kind of clear. That's probably one of the best tips that I could say, is just, making sure that there's nothing obstructing that view of the home. I mean, there's 100 tips I could probably give, but that's probably the low hanging fruit is that one. Oh, another one is even having a sign in your window that says you have an alarm system of some sort. Those signs, I think they interviewed, there's a statistic I read one time about somewhere it was a high percentage. Let's say it was in the high 80s, even maybe low 90s percent of criminals that look for houses. If they see those signs, they'll bypass that house. So just even having the sign is a really good deterrent.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree with what you said earlier about it's not enough to have the home security system in your house. A lot of times people aren't arming them. They do at first. A lot of times people purchase a home security system because there's a scare in the neighborhood or maybe even at their own home. And at first they're arming it every single night. And then over time, they forget to go in the app, or they're just, neglectful to do so, and they don't arm it. And so it doesn't do all that much good to have a security system that isn't armed. So yeah, that's a pro tip for sure. Remember that, everyone.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Sorry,
Let's
I
see.
think a lot of people don't use them sometimes because when they malfunction, sometimes depending on the city that you live in, there may be an ordinance where you can be fined and things like that. And while that might be a problem, at the same time, you should be maintaining your system, making sure that it isn't going to function correctly. Just like anything, you change the oil in your car regularly so that your engine works. The same thing with an alarm system. You want to make sure that those sensors are, not falling off the doors and windows, that they're secured properly, that there's no loose wiring on them. If it's a wired system, these days most of them aren't wired. It's a lot of internet based things. So, but you want to make sure that they're functioning correctly and that they're maintained properly, and you won't have those issues. But yeah, using them is if you have it, you should use it.
Certainly. And we have a question here already. I was going to save this for the Q&A, but it's related to what we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the screen here. And Taylor asks, do you think fake cameras and signs in the yard are enough of a deterrence for burglars?
Yeah, like I said, they have done studies. A lot of times what ends up happening is people that are arrested for burglaries or any number of crimes, they get interviewed and they're asked certain questions as to how do they choose a target, whether it's a residence or a person that they want to victimize. And a lot of the data that comes out of that suggests that that they don't want to get caught. So if they see a camera, they're not going to want to get caught. If they see a sign that's up that says that this home is protected by XYZ security system, they're more likely to avoid that property altogether. And it also, I'll kind of address one other really big tip is for nighttime, having lighting on. Lighting is probably the number one crime prevention tip that you can have, a prevention tip that you can have for a home or a business even at night. Again, criminals are cowards. They don't want to get caught. So if everything's illuminated, there's nowhere for them to hide to commit the crimes. So those are the things. I mean, they just, if you just constantly think if I was someone going to commit a crime, would they be able to see me if I was doing it? And if the answer is yes, then how do you eliminate that problem? So if it's dark out, well, then you have lighting. If there's a sign that says this home is protected, or if there's visible cameras that are up, then yeah, those are going to definitely add to that deterrence effect, and most likely going to decrease the probability of you being victimized.
Sure, yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I have these here. These are dummy cams that you can buy on Amazon. I think I got this in like a 2-pack for like $12 or something like that. It's not real. It's hollow, and you set it up and it does act as a deterrent. Obviously, it's not going to give you the features that like a Ring camera or Simply Safe or ADT will, but in a pinch, it's better than nothing. And then Gene, to your point on lighting. So this is the new Nest floodlight cam that ADT is selling with their packages, and it has these 2 adjustable floodlights. And yeah, as you said, of course, bad guys, they hate to be exposed by light, so they're going to scram in most cases once that light shines on them. And most cameras that you get today are going to be motion activated, so as soon as that detects any motion, it's going to start shining, recording, and hopefully get that bad guy out of there. Yeah, great. Yeah, what do we have? So when I want to talk a little bit about, tactical strategies maybe that you've used on the SWAT team that civilians can adapt for their homes and families. And when I think of like tactics, like home security tactics, my mind goes to like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone, right? With like Marv's head catching on fire. Or that might be Harry's head catching on fire, and Marv stepping on the nail and like the ornaments, right? The booby traps. I actually think we should run a whole episode at some point just like ranking Home Alone booby traps. think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But yeah, so like, yeah, what are some like tactics that we should be thinking about? Like maybe inside the home, like if there is a break-in or something like that, how do we survive that?
So that's a really good question, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't think frequently enough about. You should, again, the burglars don't know, or the criminal that's breaking into your house doesn't know the layout of your house. So you have an advantage to the house. You understand the way it's laid out, and what you need to do is you really should have a plan of what's going to happen if you hear somebody smashing in the sliding glass door in the back of your house, and you're in the front of the house or you're upstairs. What are you going to do? You're going to lock yourself inside a room, or are you going to run out? Is there access? Usually people have their phones on them. You're going to be able to call 911. If you don't have your phone on, is there a landline phone you can use? Do you have a panic button? So to give you advice on what you should do, you really should have a plan. I can't give a specific of how to handle your house because every house is laid out differently, but you want to be able to make sure that where you're at, you have a secure, if you're going to stay inside because there's no quick exit, do you have a solid core door with a really strong lock on it and strong hinges for that room that you're going to stay in? Have you talked to your kids about what happens if someone's going to break into your house? Are you going to is there a code word you can yell? Having that sort of that plan in advance is really, really important. But that's what I would suggest. I mean, to give a specific tactical thing is very difficult because everyone's layout is different. And again, if you have a spouse, or you live by yourself, if you have children, or if you live with your elderly parents, like all of those things are going to change the dynamic of how you're going to respond and what you're going to be able to do. So it's a hard question to say tactically what you would do. But you're going to want to make sure that you have, a plan. What would I do if someone comes in through the back door? Am I going to run out the front, or am I, do I have children that I have to worry about? Or am I going to go to their room? Can I get their room safely? All those things are, what you're going to what you want to think about. And that's not even getting into the whole aspect of, do you have a weapon in the house? Are you trained to use it effectively, and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot that goes into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I bet. So we don't get too much into firearms on safehome.org. Obviously, like that's a very personal decision, but it's also, can be very effective if you're well trained with it. Maybe like what are some, obviously we want to have like a home security system of sorts set up, potentially like a doorbell camera, something for the exterior cameras. Inside the home, thinking of like firearms, is that like a good route that you would recommend most people take if they are well trained with it? Or is it maybe only for certain types of people? Then obviously there's the consideration of like kids in the home with firearms. Maybe talk us through that a little bit.
It's a really a serious decision that you have to make, is whether you want to have a firearm or not. If you do have one, if you decide that you are able to, strong enough mentally, and there's a moral aspect to it. Are you able to, are you going to be able to shoot somebody? If you can't, if you think you won't be able to do it, then don't get one, because it's going to be used against you at some point. So you have to consider, are you capable of using it? And are you responsible enough to buy one and train with it on a regular basis? Because it's not going to do you any good if you buy a gun, take a class, and put it in a drawer. Firearm skills are a perishable skill. It's something that goes away if you don't continue to train with it. It doesn't mean you have to go to the range a lot. There's a lot of things you can do training wise inside your home. Obviously unloaded, you're not going to use loaded gun, but there's exercises you can do to keep your proficiency up. That being said, adding children and family into that dynamic of, do I have a firearm? That just adds a lot more that you have to consider. Are you going to have a plan of how you're going to store this gun safely if you have children? Because you just can't leave it out. It's got to be secured. How old are your kids? Things like that. If they're old enough and responsible enough, do they know how to use it in case? You really want to make sure that everyone in the home is proficient. So it's a very tough question. And there's, again, there's a lot of issues that come in. If someone breaks in your house and you have a firearm, a lot of people think, well, I'll clear the house myself. I'm going to go room to room and clear. That would be probably one of the worst ideas you could ever do, because we don't do that. SWAT, we would never clear a room. I shouldn't say we would never. but it takes just tons of training to be able to do it effectively. And even those of us that are trained effectively, we really don't want to go into a room by ourselves. We don't want to clear a house alone. You always want to have somebody with you, because there's just too many angles. There's too many places that you're not going to be able to pay attention to while you're checking one area. Someone could be on the other side and you don't know where they are. So it's a very dangerous thing to do. The best thing is if you have a firearm and, you can arm yourself and then just stay stationary, pick a spot in your home that you have a great vantage point, and just, again, having it and calling out to whoever's breaking in, I have a firearm. If you come in, if you don't leave now, you might get shot. I already called police, things like that. You want to give them warning. It's better to not use a firearm, even if you have one. It gets a lot more complex when you actually end up having to use a firearm. So having it is great. Usually that's a very strong deterrent. If you have to use it, you have to use it. But again, that choice to make of, is a firearm a responsibility that I'm capable of handling? It's a personal choice. I'm pro-gun, but I understand the counter argument of it's not for everybody. And believe me, I've told a lot of people guns are not for you. And that there's no shame in that. There's a lot that you can do. Again, calling police, making a lot of noise, which is why alarm systems are so great. If you hit that panic button and the siren starts going off, everyone's going to hear it, and they're not going to want to hang around to get caught. So that is also a good deterrent.
Great. Yeah. So I have another question for you here before we open up for Q&A. Well, first, so you're a SWAT commander. You were on the SWAT team. I'm so intrigued just by hearing that. Do you have any stories that you could share? What was it like being a SWAT commander? I'm sure you were in some very high stakes situations that, just go ahead and talk about that a little bit if you would.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's probably a ton of stories I could tell. Some things that stood out to me over the years. One of the biggest lessons that I learned is that no matter the amount of training and planning that you have, as far as so let's say we're going to serve a warrant on a house, we would know the details of the house. Typically, we'd have the floor plans. We would know who the people are that are inside, but there were other things that we didn't always know. We didn't know if there were any modifications to a house. We didn't know if there were secondary locks on a door. Sometimes there's hidden deadbolts that you don't see. So there's all these things. And the reality is that as much as you want to plan for something, typically things don't go according to plan. And so that's why it was always important to have at least two different options, other than the original plan, so that you could address those things that come up, because that's just how life is. You really never know what you're going to run into until you're actually in the middle of it. And despite the preparation and the planning, things just don't always work out the way you think that they're going to work out. And that's why, again, I talk about it, is that when someone is trying to figure out how to stay safe in their home, have options, have a plan. If someone comes through that door, I'm going to go there. If they come through that door, I'm going to go there. All those things, you have to have an idea of where you're going to do it or how you're going to protect yourself. So that was that. I think that the other aspect of it, and I can say that when we were at there was an active shooter event at Fort Lauderdale Airport that we were part of. That again, as much as you plan in a violent encounter, you're just controlling the chaos. You're really not able to control everything, and you really have to be able to adapt to the situation as it goes. And I think that's something that people have to realize, that inside their home, it's going to be the same thing. Or if they're out in public and something happens, you're not going to have the control that you think you're going to have, and you have to keep an open mind and stay calm enough to make those rational choices of what the best thing is for you to do. And I think that's where, one of the things that we teach people a lot about is having that calm mindset, controlling your emotions during one of these high risk situations, is planning. That's part of the planning and preparation phase. And one thing that we teach people to do is, we call it the what if game. And what if someone kicked in the door while me and my family were watching TV? What would I do? What if I came home and I see my front door is kicked in? What would I do? How would I respond to that? when you start playing that
Yeah.
game, you're training your mind to be able to adapt to these very weird situations that aren't a normal part of your day, and your reaction time actually improves, and it also calms down your limbic system and all the chemical reactions that happen under high stress, and you're able to actually have a little bit more rational thought of how you're going to move forward. And it's at those times that you're actually going to make the best decisions and have the best opportunity to survive or to avoid a dangerous situation.
Yeah, that's great. That's great insight. What Mike Tyson was the one that said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
100%.
Um, yeah, and actually we had a scare here about a year ago. In the middle of the night, we smelled smoke, or I woke up to the smell of smoke in the house because I'm a very light sleeper. And it was actually before the smoke alarm caught it. And we have two little kids in the house, and so my adrenaline spiked like no one's business. And I got on the phone with 911, but I could barely even speak. I could barely give them my address just because my adrenaline was working overdrive, and it was just a really high stress situation. And so we can plan all we want, but I do think that also just drilling these types of things, or drilling your family's emergency preparedness plan, like exits, that sort of thing in the house, is really important and can help you in that situation. But yeah, that was quite the scare.
Yeah, I always say, you should be prepared, not paranoid. Have an idea. Just realize that no one gets out of life without something tragic or scary happening, and just don't think the biggest mistake people have is, oh, it won't happen to me, or I'm in a really safe area, nothing bad happens here, and those might be true, but more than likely something is going to happen at some point in your life that you're not going to expect. And if you just think about, oh, what would I do if this happened? And a quick story. I had my wife and I had a bulldog, and bulldogs, if you know anything about them, they're just little tanks. They're little balls of muscle, and they don't swim. They sink like a stone.
Oh, yeah.
We lived on a canal, and my wife let the dog chase the ducks, and I'm like, don't let her do that because she's going to go in the water. She can't swim. She'll die. Anyways, long story short, one day, out back, the duck comes, and I'm just sitting there watching, and my wife's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, I'm not saying anything, because we used to fight about it. I'm not going to say anything. And of course the dog ran, duck flies away, goes right in the canal. I don't really remember much of anything other than being underwater, pushing my dog out of the water. And my wife said, how did you do that? And I said, I have already planned for this so many times, because I thought, what would I do if my dog fell in the water? How would I respond to that? And that was one of the games that I played, that what if game.
Right.
That it was, I knew like in my mind, I knew how to react. I knew that I was going to watch where the dog went in, jump over that spot. As I hit the water, I was going to turn around and start scooping to try to find the dog. Because in Florida, the canal water is like pitch black. You can't see anything. And I was able to find her. I pushed her up and saved her. So that's what ends up, that's a good example of how that what if game really does come into handy. And I don't remember, I didn't think, oh, I just saw her go in and my reaction was on, because in my mind, I had already lived that scenario. And that's why, again, like your example, what would I do if I smelled smoke in the middle of the night? You didn't really know, you were scared, rightly so. You weren't sure what to do. And that's why your body shut down, because you were in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And it sounds like you were a little bit in that freeze mode, that you didn't quite know how to respond. And that's completely natural. But the way that you overcome that is by having that concept of, what would I do if this happened? So that's why we really hammer that concept with everybody.
Yeah. That's great. All right, everyone, please go ahead and post a question if you have any in the chat, and we'll get to those in just a second. And then, Gene, I have another question for you before we also jump into the home burglary live reactions, which I'm looking forward to. Do you feel like the world is getting safer or more dangerous? It's kind of a loaded question, but
so I think it's what your perception is. I think that the world was always a dangerous place. I think now, because there's so much video out there, that it's perceived to be more dangerous than it was. It was always a dangerous world. I think that it has become more dangerous on some levels, but that's life. I mean, there's going to be predators and there's going to be victims, and the option is up to you. Do you want to be victim? No, you don't have to be that victim. You have to be able to be aware. And I think that what makes it a little bit more dangerous these days is technology. The fact that everyone's walking around with their faces in their phone all the time, not paying attention to the surroundings. They really don't know what's happening. And I think we've lost some of that street smarts. Because we're just we become sort of self-absorbed in what's going on in our own lives that we're not watching other people. And I think that creates that really good situation for a criminal to say, oh, they're not paying attention, I'm going to go grab them, grab their purse, whatever, I'm going to steal their chain off their neck, rip their watch off their wrist, whatever they're going to do, or much worse. So I think that technology has made it on some levels worse. But as far as the violence of human nature, I think we've always, had that propensity for violence, and just the fact that there's so much video, and with social media, you see a lot more of it. So I think I think we've always been a violent society, but I think that it's up to you if you want to be a victim or not.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know if Maya wants us to post this here, but I'm going to put it on the screen anyway. I think this is great. She says, when I was little, my grandmother used to quiz me, so I knew to call 911 if she fell or passed out. Thankfully, I never had to, but it was good to be prepared. Yeah, that just goes back to the not living in paranoia, but being prepared.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you don't have to scare, especially when children. Sorry.
And then
I'm sorry. You don't have to scare children when you're doing this. It's just very simple. Just like, listen, these things can happen. Doesn't mean it's going to, but if it does, this is how you respond, and that's how you can help me or help your grandmother. This is how you help me. If I fall or get hurt, this is what I would need you to do to help me, and that would be really important. And you're empowering them. You're empowering a child. You're empowering a family member to be of service when something bad happens. And everyone wants to have a role. They really do. And I think that's a great example. Definitely.
Right. And then MD here asks, would love to get Gene's thoughts on neighbor apps like Nextdoor. Would you recommend those?
So I think they're pretty good apps. I think anything where you can share information is really good. What I do see a lot on some of those apps is more complaining about neighbor issues than anything else. So it's a tool. It's just one of the many tools. I think what's really important is that you create a network within your own network where your neighbors and you all have each other's cell phone numbers and you're actually watching out for each other. And it's not always ideal because sometimes your neighbors aren't the best people. So you might want to pick and choose who you tell that you're going to be out of town. You don't tell everyone, but maybe, the ones that you really trust, hey, I'm going to be out of town. But again, comes back to having a great security system, because a lot of those systems are all right on your phone and you can look to see what's going on. You're notified as soon as there's some kind of activation, whether it's motion or there's a door open or a window broken. So the apps are good, but it's just a layer of a bigger, security plan that you would have.
Sure. Yeah. I always get the ring notifications in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. about someone's cat gone missing, or the one that's always recurring is the heard a loud shot. Anybody else hear that? Or like a loud noise or something.
Does anyone know what that helicopter was doing? And we're like,
the helicopter one. That's common. Good stuff. Cool. And then Ryan asks, would you give different advice to someone who lives in a high-rise apartment in the city versus single family home in a suburb?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're again, it's the type of residence you live in is going to dictate the kind of response that you're going to have. So in a high rise, you're going to pretty much have one entry point. You're not going to have two. If you're in a high rise, you're not going to be able to get out the window, because depending on how high up you are, it's not going to do you any good. So, for that situation, you want to make sure that that front door is extremely well secured. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, know the layout of the building that you're in and know the exit points, where are the exits, the stairwells and things like that. And again, knowing your neighbors, those are huge advantages. And so it definitely creates a whole different level of how you would respond and things that you should be concerned with.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Actually, Ryan, this could be worth getting. It's the Ring peephole camera here. So you might have heard of this, and you might see others with this, but it's essentially like a peephole for your apartment unit or your condo, and it's a camera with a built-in camera, and you can stream that on your phone, and it might even have like two-way talk, but I'd have to look into that. But that could be an option. Very inexpensive. They're less than $100. So there's definitely ways that to protect a condo or an apartment.
Yeah, that's a great. All those Ring doorbells. Whether it's Ring or any other brand, they're all invaluable. I mean, it does such a great job. One of the things that people may not realize is that when someone comes to your door and knocks on your door and you don't know them, most people are like, well, if I don't know, I'm not going to say anything. And that is probably the worst thing that you can do, because they're checking to see if anyone's there. Remember, criminals are cowards. If they think no one's there, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to kick in the front door, or they're going to go around the back and break into the back. So I can't tell you the number of times that we responded to burglary calls where the resident was home and they called and they said, oh my God, somebody's breaking into my house, but they're in my back. And we get there and they said, oh, well, they knocked on the door, and I ignored them because I didn't want them I didn't know them. So those doorbell cameras are two-way communication. So you can talk to them without even opening the door. They don't know if you're there. They don't know if you're not there. Just tell them I'm inside. Just say, I'm not answering the door. I don't know who you are. Please leave. Or it might be the kid, kid next door you didn't recognize. Could be anything, but to ignore them is a huge mistake. And those video doorbells, whether it's through the peephole or not, those are great options.
Yeah, that's a great point. Most burglars or criminals even are opportunistic, and they don't want anybody home at all. And if someone's home, a lot of times they won't breach entry. You'll see that actually as we share some of these YouTube videos of live break-ins, that the burglar or the thief is going to knock on the door. Even sometimes they'll go around the back and knock on it, make sure no one's home, and then they're going to break in. The moment they know you're there, a lot of times they're out. And like to your point too, if you are quiet and they think no one's home, that's, I would imagine, a lot of times like how the home invasions happen, when suddenly you're in this like face-to-face close corner altercation with a criminal, which can be very scary, of course.
Yeah. And you don't know, every criminal has different backgrounds. They some might be they might have a very extensive violent history, but they just wanted to break into a house, thought no one was there. And then since someone was there, they know that, well, now they can be identified. They might do something or try to attack you or do something more violent just because that's what presented itself. Others, as soon as they smash the door, see someone in there screaming, they're going to run because they don't want to get caught again. So you don't know. But if someone's breaking your house, you have to assume that nothing good is going to come with it. It's probably going to be a violent encounter if you're home with them while you're there. So definitely it's an issue, and to ignore them at the door is a huge mistake.
Tyler asks, do smart locks and keyless entry systems increase or decrease home security?
So I will give you my opinion, is that I think that they increase the security. Obviously, it has to be a good system. And most of them I think are pretty well made these days. The reason I say that it increases it is because how many times have you left saying, did I lock my door? Did I not lock my door? Because I always lock my door, but I have a keyless and it's set to automatically lock after, like, I think I've got it set for 2 minutes. If it's left unlocked, it will automatically lock. So even if I were to forget, it's going to lock itself. So it's a great thing. It's really, I think, just not only a convenient thing, but it's that layered protection we talk about in the security world, about layers of protection and redundancy. And that's one of them. That's just one extra thing that if this doesn't happen, I didn't lock the door, the lock will lock itself for me. So I'm not going to forget to do that. And you can even look on a lot of them on the apps to see if the door's locked or unlocked, and you can verify it that way as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's great. All right, let's jump into some of these break-in videos and get Gene's live reactions. Hopefully the tech cooperates with us here, but bear with me. We'll try to go like least scary. I don't know if that's the word. To like more high stakes and intense videos. And I'll let you know if there's anything that's too intense to maybe mute or don't watch. Don't worry, there's no blood and gore or anything like that. All right, let's start here. And just real quick, how I imagine this going, we'll watch these through once, and then maybe we'll play certain parts of it again, and then Gene, you can go ahead and jump in if you want, like what you're seeing, and maybe like from the mind of the burglar, or you know, what you'd do different as the homeowner or renter. It's kind of loud, sorry. And he is gone. So yeah, any thoughts at all as you watch this?
Yeah, well, this guy it's not his first time. It's definitely not his first time. And you can see he brought something with him to wipe, a towel that he wiped all of his fingerprints off with that he could. He's looking for small things that he can steal easily. The days of everyone's like, oh, they're going to steal my flat screen and all this. That might happen, but in order to do that, you need to have a car and all that kind of stuff. And most people, they're on foot or on bikes. I'm curious where that shovel came from. A lot of people don't realize that leaving things around their house outside, can be used to smash in doors and windows and things like that. But that's also a weapon. He comes inside that house. He's now got a pretty serious weapon right there. But look at him. He's grabbing all the small things. I can't really tell what he picked up. It could have been some jewelry that was there, some loose change, anything like that. But look at him. He wipes off his fingerprints. He heard the alarm and he knew he's got to go. So he knew that alarm just kept him from walking through that house for a long time. Yeah, he knew he knew to wipe everything. But what I think was really good is the camera system. This is a really good example of how security cameras. This guy definitely got caught. There's you have crystal clear pictures. I mean, he looks right in the camera when he was in the kitchen. So you have a clear shot of him, and you can see what he touched and what he didn't. And again, shows his intent. He has a towel to wipe off all his fingerprints. So yeah, great video.
Yeah. His hat actually says the problem. I don't know if anybody caught that.
Yeah.
I think he swiped some car keys off the counter.
Okay.
There was like a nice tool set there that he didn't even touch.
Yeah.
And,
but that's big. Remember, it's big. That's a big thing, and that's what a lot of times they'll wear a backpack so they can put everything inside a backpack. Or they'll if they have time, they'll take the pillowcase off a pillow and they'll use that just to put all the stuff in that they steal. And that's small. You can fold up roll up a pillowcase and put it underneath the shirt and conceal that pretty easily. So those are the things that they're normally doing. So this is not his first time doing this.
Right. Should have wore a mask though. I will say.
Yeah. He wasn't thinking.
Right. Let's go ahead and share a different one here. Let's see. Okay, this is a package thief. You don't really have to comment on this one. It's kind of
not sure I can say much about that.
Yeah.
I would not open the door.
No, do not open the door. This could be the most dangerous intruder, actually. I used to live in the mountains of Montana, and we had bears all the time, but never stealing packages.
Yeah, that's pretty. I wonder what was in there.
Yeah, right. Here's another one of package thieves. So I'll just let you watch it.
Hey, get away. Are you kidding me?
She runs that way and then back that way.
Yeah.
Look at my front door. Rings up. I rip it open my box.
Did he hear you?
He ran.
Oh, no.
The reaction's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you can see them where they had backpacks on. And again, they're always going to have, because it's normal to see someone walking with a backpack on. So if they can get whatever is inside that box, inside a backpack, you're not going to think twice about it if you see them. But if you see them, carrying a computer, that looks a little strange, or TV or something larger. So yeah, but that was pretty interesting. You typically they just take the entire box and run. These two are looking to see what was inside first. But again, they weren't ready. Yeah. They weren't expecting what to do because the one ran the wrong way. So her or his reaction was just run, and then, oh wait, our car or wherever they're going to is the other way. They had to run back. So that just shows under stress what your body does. Sometimes you don't have a plan for when things go not according to plan.
That's right. Yeah, and that two-way talk on that video doorbell too, that's crucial. And you'll get that motion alert when you're, at work, or you might be on vacation on the beach or something. That alert should come through your phone, and you can get on that two-way talk. We all know this. Most everybody has a doorbell camera nowadays, and that two-way talk, all they need to know is that someone's watching them, that you're calling the police, and a lot of times they're just gone, right? But then again, like, package theft happens so fast anyways. So a lot of times that feature is almost kind of a moot point, but this one's interesting. So go ahead.
No, I'm just not everything is going to prevent a crime, but it's again that layer. It's just something else you have. So yeah,
absolutely. Just looking at some of the chat here. So Paul earlier wrote, it's also like he knew the response time of police arrival relative to the alarm going off. And that's a great point. Obviously, someone can make their way, a burglar can make their way through a house, probably a few minutes, potentially longer, before dispatch even gets a police officer to the scene. Do you have any, Gene, do you have any idea about like average response time to this sort of crime, like the shovel guy or anything like that?
There's statistics out there that say the national response time for law enforcement to respond to a house is around 10 to 12 minutes. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that rural areas where it takes a long time to get to a house really distorts the reality of response times. So I would say it's probably closer to 3 to 5 minutes for a response. It just depends. It depends on the city. It depends on the staffing. It depends on the time of day. It depends on traffic. There's, the weather is going to, could delay a response. And it's also luck. You could just be in the area when the call goes out, and you could be right around the corner when something happens. So it's tough to say, but I would say on average, you're probably looking at about a 5 minute, up to 5 minutes for response time, which again is where the value of that two-way communication is. Because you can actually interrupt them from doing their crime, because you've already got them. You're letting them know you've been seen. We've got you, and you need to leave. And usually that's enough for them to run away, because they now know that someone's watching and someone's aware, and someone, if they aren't sure about are the police going to call or coming or not, is the alarm monitored by police, or is it going to be called in? Now when you're on there saying, leave, you need to leave. What are you doing in my backyard? Stop, whatever you're going to say to them. That's going to be enough to usually get them to get out of there. So those are really good because, the police want to get there. They want to catch these guys or girls. But it takes time. It takes time to get there, and where you can actually be instrumental into not only getting them out of there faster, but you also can be part of catching them, because as soon as someone hears someone talking, you instinctively turn to look to where that noise is coming from, which is going to capture their view on camera. So even if they're ducking down and trying to be all discreet, when they hear someone say something, they're going to turn to see where it's coming from. Usually it's right where the camera's at, and you're just going to help get a better image of them at that point.
Sure. Yeah, and there's actually you probably know about this, a really neat feature on security systems nowadays. I know Simply Safe definitely has it, and maybe a couple others, but it's a verified crime in progress. So if you have an indoor security camera and the motion alert goes off and you're not at home, it'll start recording, and the Simply Safe emergency alert agents can then access that camera to see if there's a burglar in the home. And if there is, they can actually dispatch that to the police as a verified crime in progress. And I think that then ups the priority of that call. Is that right? If you guys have that.
Yeah. So if, the sad reality is, there are so many false residential alarms that it's not typically seen as a major priority. In fact, a lot of departments, just due to the overwhelming number of calls for service, stop responding to residential alarms. Whereas if you can verify that this is a crime in progress, they're going to get there as quickly as they can. So it makes a big difference, definitely.
Right. Great. Let's watch this. So this is interesting. Now, note this gentleman who's speaking has definitely never broken into a home before. And he wants to make that very clear. It wasn't him. He knew a guy. Okay.
Yeah.
I really never broke into houses, but I learned a lot from guys that got a lot of time in prison. There's this one guy, he's doing 256 years. He told me this is how he did it. He driving a van. He put company signs on there, like carpet company, moving company, signs on the van. Have them made with magnets or whatever. They'll even go rent a U-Haul and go scope out the neighborhood. One of his easiest thing was sometimes he saw where people left their house key because somebody else had to come and get in. Somebody didn't have a key. They see a cracked window open, they're going to get into that cracked window. They got ladders. Hey, there's a lot of money in that house. Make sure all your windows are locked at all times. Don't be leaving your garage open and letting people see the inside of it. Like if you're outside doing your yard, don't leave your garage door open. I know you feel comfortable, you're at your house, you can, yeah, well, I'm out right here in the yard, but you're giving the opportunity to a thief to see what you got inside your house, to see where your door is at. You're gonna see a company van thinking it's a company van or U-Haul, and it's not, it's thieves looking at your house. Yeah, this is the one we're gonna hit. One thing you gotta be careful with, you gotta be careful who you're hiring to come to your house, to fix your plumbing, to do your carpet work, to do anything. The guy that you're hiring might have some help that's a thief. He's scoping out the area, making sure there's no alarms. The best thing to do is tell your neighbor, you know what, these guys are gonna come in, they're gonna come and move my furniture, I won't be here today. Neighbors gotta help your neighbors out too sometimes, you gotta put, the community got to put their part too. No matter where you're at, you can get broken into because you're not paying attention to your surroundings when you leave your house. That's all I gotta say.
Not much to add to that one. I think he said everything completely accurate. I mean, I'm sure he's a very innocent person.
Yeah.
Hasn't done these things before, but yeah, I mean, everything he's saying is absolutely true. Even down leaving your garage door open. Yeah, it's definitely definitely something you got to be careful of. And he said it. He said people, he made the comment, I live in a safe area. Well, you might, but doesn't mean that someone that isn't safe and someone that is a violent person or a criminal isn't going to be going to those safe areas knowing that. So yeah, good. He gave good advice.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of gold in there for sure. Yeah. Just a lot of like kind of streetwise things too that he's picked up over the years. He knows about that a lot of us don't know about. We're not exposed to this sort of thing on a daily basis. So
yeah.
All right, we have.
He said, people aren't paying attention. He said it. That was one of the last things he said. People don't pay attention when they're leaving their house.
Right.
Just being aware of your surroundings is half the battle.
Sure. Sorry, I had to turn the Alexa timer off. Okay, let's see. I have a couple more here. This one, if it says Georgia woman exchanges gunfire with 3 burglars during home invasion, killing 1. You don't really get to see who she kills, which is probably for the best. But if you're at all squeamish or don't like violence in any way, maybe turn away for this one. But this is where, the stakes get really high when, criminals do come into your home armed. It's more of a home invasion situation and the homeowner is armed. So let's go ahead and watch this one.
She exercised her right to defend her livelihood and property.
Watch as this Gwinnett County woman rushes from her bedroom, unloading all her bullets on the 3 men who kicked in her front door.
Because they got a gun.
It's the dramatic newly released video from around morning. The woman, a local restaurant manager, is staying in a spring drive home with a housemate for work-related reasons when she hears the 3 intruders, guns clearly in hand. Police saying they came here for cash and met their match.
Did they shoot you? Yeah, they shoot me.
As they exchange gunfire with drywall debris clouding the dark home, one man runs through a glass door. The man in the wig dies of his injuries in the driveway, and the woman, seen here being consoled by that housemate who gently takes away the gun, lives to tell and show police what happened.
It's not common that we receive this caliber of surveillance video showing a crime.
Police need to find the 2 surviving suspects.
They're not wearing anything on their faces, so we highly anticipate that someone watching the evening newscast will recognize these people.
Yeah, I'll play this with the volume down, and you maybe talk us through this a little bit.
So yeah, I mean, she's aggressive, and I appreciate that. I don't know if she's trained or had a plan for what she was going to do, but you can clearly see they're carrying guns when they come into the house. They meant business, and as far as her justifying her actions, it's 100% justified. There's no doubt they came in there, gun, and gun. Three guys, 3 guns, and she was not playing around. She knew what she had to do. Scary situation, very scary situation, and she's lucky. And chasing after them may not have been the best thing to do. I'm not sure I would have done that, but that's where the adrenaline kicked in, and she just saw bad guys and thought, I need to take them out before they take me out. And so I don't fault her for that. But definitely a terrifying moment for her and anyone that's in that situation.
Yeah,
but dangerous. You can see where she runs one way, the other guy runs. One runs to the left of the screen, the other 2 run to the right. That's an opportunity for that one. Her back is exposed. So that's why I always say be careful about trying to clear a room by yourself, which is what she was doing. She now had her back exposed to somebody that she shot him. You could see him get shot as he ran out and he jumped through the sliding glass door, but he could have come back, and that's a scary thing. So definitely a terrifying moment for her, and good thing she survived.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach wrote, lesson 1, don't store your shop goods at your house. Lesson 2, keep both hands on your gun and learn how to aim. Well, I agree. It's funny.
She well on one of them, obviously. So yeah.
I'm over here like I can't even talk to 911 when there's a little bit of smoke in the house, and she's over here like guns ablazing, fighting off 3 criminals.
And that's the thing is that people don't realize what you're capable or not capable of doing in a stressful situation. Everyone reacts a little bit differently. And that's why, again, I'll always say it is having a plan and thinking about how you would react if something happened. What would you do? That will help you fight off the fight, flight, or freeze response. And you'll be able to realize what you need to do properly and protect yourself. If she had just taken a couple of shots, they would have run away. They would not have come back. That was it. But she chased him down, and that was her choice. And luckily it worked out for her. Okay. Scary, very scary video to watch though.
Yeah, it was. So two hands or one on the pistol? Steve says it looks cooler with one. I'd have to agree.
It does, but not many people can shoot well with one hand. So, but she again,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna give her, not gonna critique her too much on that. She survived and did what she had to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, before we sign out here, are there any last questions that you guys want to fire at Gene here? No pun intended. This has been great, though. This has been awesome. A lot of excellent info that you've shared, and yeah, thank you very much. So, let's see if there's any last questions. Otherwise, I think we're good, and we're definitely going to have to do this again if you're up for it. I'm already I have tons and dozens of topics already that I want to be talking to you about. So, yeah, this has been awesome. Yep. Thank you. Very informative. Thanks, Gene. Yep. Cool. Chat, this has been awesome. Thanks everyone who joined and watched and stayed with us this whole time. This has been a blast. So just want to leave you with this before you sign out. Don't forget to visit safehome.org. We have a lot of home security product reviews, tips and resources, a lot of different research on home security. So yeah, check out the site. This QR code will take you right there. Otherwise, just safehome.org. And yeah, signing off. Thanks everybody.
See you guys.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it. Bye.